Hello and welcome to Post to Post, the channel where we discuss all things hockey and all teams. Recently, the NHL draft just happened on Friday. That was about 4 days ago. I didn't watch it, and you didn't watch it. Unfortunately, I just couldn't. I didn't have the time to watch it. I did follow on Twitter a little bit. Obviously, I know who got drafted. I wouldn't be making a video if I didn't. But we're just going to talk about the top three, because after the top three, I don't really know much about the guys. And I do have some special guests coming up later in this video who's going to talk a little bit more about that. But as of right now, let's start off with number one, Nico Hischier. Everybody kind of slotted him to go number two for a while, and then Nolan Patrick got injured. He missed 30 plus games, I think, and Nico Hischier kind of moved up the ranks a little bit. And New Jersey drafted him first overall. He's a center. He's Swiss. It's the first ever Swiss-born player to be drafted first overall.
There you go.
I'm actually pretty excited to watch New Jersey next year for maybe the first time ever. They had a down season last year. Corey Schneider didn't play well. They couldn't score. Nico Hischier is going to be a great addition to this team. Are you going to watch them New Jersey next year?
I really think they needed to add a top center to their organization. So, I have really, no beef with this pick. Would that be a good word to use? Beef?
I think this is great. I think this is a great pick.
I think this is exactly what New Jersey needed, a guy like this. I look at him as being potentially NHL ready, same as Nolan Patrick. I really think these two guys are NHL ready players, and I think we're going to see him in the lineup to start next season. I'm hoping that we see it, but I really do think we will.
Absolutely. Drafted number 2 overall was Nolan Patrick. We've just mentioned he's Canadian. I thought for sure that he was American for whatever reason, but I looked last night and he's Canadian. And, he's had some injury issues, like I mentioned earlier. He missed 30 plus games. That's unfortunate, but he's not a bad player. He's an amazing player. He's incredible. Philadelphia is going to be a very scary team next year. If they can figure out their goalie situation and a few other pieces, man, that's going to be a pretty competitive team in an already competitive division, the Metro Division. It's going to be very interesting to watch them next year. I don't watch a lot of New Jersey, and I don't watch a lot of Philadelphia. I see myself watching those two teams next year quite a bit, so I'm actually looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm actually also curious to know why New Jersey decided to pass on Nolan Patrick first overall, because most people projected him to go first overall, but then when the injury happened, it kind of scared people away a little bit and thinking, okay, well, maybe this could affect him moving forward, maybe he's injury prone, yada. So obviously a lot of things really come into play when you're making a draft selection, because I always say in order to build a cup winner, you have to do it through the draft.
Absolutely.
So you really need to be careful with all of your picks. They're all huge moving forward. So was that the reason New Jersey opted out of selecting Nolan Patrick first overall? Tough to say. Only they would know that. But either way, he fell directly into Philadelphia's hands, and they were glad to take him.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not uncommon for draft picks to be injured. I mean, McDavid himself, remember he got into a fight and he hurt his hand, I think. So, it's not uncommon, but sometimes we've seen this year, that could be a reason why it affected the draft order. Regardless, let's move on to number 3, Dallas. Now, we just discussed the Mathot trade and a video earlier we recorded. They've drafted Miro Heiskanen. He's a Finnish player. He's a defenseman. I mean, I don't know if this guy's going to jump into the NHL. Probably not. We won't know, but at least a year from now, this is going to be a great addition for Dallas. They're a team that's trending up. So this is great for Dallas. What's your thoughts here?
Yeah, because as I said in the Mathot video, I always consider Dallas to have what it takes up front, and they just needed to work on their blue line as well as their goal situation. And they addressed both of those, in my opinion. And now adding this guy, I think they're just solidifying their blue line even more over the future. So I think this was the appropriate pick for them.
Yeah, this is huge. If you're a Dallas fan, you should be pretty excited with the things that have happened over the past couple of weeks. This is a great time to be a Dallas fan, even though they didn't make the playoffs this year. Next year should be
that was surprising.
Pretty exciting.
That they missed.
I'm not going to discuss really any other draft picks beyond that, except for one guy who was drafted number 22 by Edmonton. His name is Kyler Yamamoto. He's an American. He played for the Spokane Chiefs. And he's just a small guy, but I watched a bit of his highlights, and this guy is so talented. I'm surprised he didn't go a little higher. Edmonton, I think, got a steal here. If you're an Edmonton fan, make sure you pay attention to this kid. He's going to do great things in not only for the Edmonton Oilers, but I think the NHL. I think he's going to have a great career. He's my sleeper pick. I think he's going to he's going to do wonderful things. I don't know if you know much about him, but we honestly don't really pay attention to much of the prospect stuff. We just don't have time, unfortunately. But now I have my dad, who recorded a video for me. He watched the draft, and he has some thoughts on mainly the production of how the draft went down. So, Dad, take it away.
Neil's asked me to pop in with a few thoughts on the NHL draft. Firstly, I'm not a hockey scout. So as far as second guessing other people's bad guesses already, I'm not into that game. I'm probably every bit as good as the scout who picked Alexander Daig in 1993, or the scout who didn't pick Henrik Zetterberg in 1999 until the 210th pick. So as far as who did well and who didn't, we don't know, and we won't know for a long, long time. But I do want to comment a little bit on the show itself. And it was an awful show. It started off, of course, with the face of the NHL, Gary Bettman. Someone needs to tell that man, or someone needs to tell the Board of Governors to get that man off the stage. He might be great in the boardroom, he might be great at negotiating and helping them make the money that they think they need to make off of their hockey teams. But he can't, for much longer, please, be the face of the NHL. He gets booed all the time, and he actually enjoys it. You know, he said at one point, Chicago, you can do better than that, you know, when they were booing him. I just can't stand it. I can't stand the idea of Gary Bettman running that show. Now, that's point number one. Point number two, what's with this green room thing they did? They had a room set aside where the top 8 players that somebody suggested or picked were all in this green room with their families near the stage. Their name would be called. The idea was they'd walk over, they'd get a hat off the shelf, put it on their head, the appropriate team hat, and walk out onto the stage. For the first 11 picks or so, it worked mostly well. 7 of the 8 players got picked in the first 11. But there was this poor player, Klim Kostin, who was finally picked by the Pittsburgh Penguins. He was there on pick 31. He was alone in the room since pick 11. That's 20 picks, 3 minutes each on the clock. That's an hour. Sitting alone in that green room with your family. What could be more embarrassing or devastating than that? When he finally got picked, it must have been a tremendous relief. But what a terrible thing to put that young man through. The 4th pick, the 3rd pick, the 5th pick, the 7th pick, they were all from players that were up in the stands, the old-fashioned way, with their family sitting maybe half the way up through the rink. And when their names got called, they stood up and they're hugging and they're high-fiving their sisters and brothers, and then they walk down on... That's what I'm used to seeing in the NHL draft. And I didn't see that this time, so I was a little disappointed. So for next year, my advice would be no green room. Now, the entourages. What on earth does a team need 12 people on stage for when they make a draft pick? Now, some teams were really good. Philadelphia was great. They had a small entourage. Colorado was great. And Vegas was great, at least the first time. They had just small groups of people, get up, make their pick, get off the stage. That's the way it ought to be. But a lot of teams, Vancouver, Buffalo, Florida, LA, Carolina, Montreal, Toronto, the Rangers, Winnipeg, Nashville, they had huge entourages on the stage. And what's with kids on the stage? Now it's a big thing. More than half the teams brought at least one kid up onto the stage. All the teams I just mentioned did, and there were a few, like Ottawa had 2 kids. Chicago had 2 kids. And then there's this Edmonton kid, this Harrison Cates, we've watched him grow up on TV through the various drafts. He's the son of the owner. The Toronto had a kid who had a Shanahan jersey on. He might be Shanahan's son, might be his grandson for all I know. But what's with kids on stage? I think it makes the whole thing into a bit of a crazy show. If they just had maybe maximum 5 people, they all have to be hockey executives on the payroll of the team, go up on the stage, do your pick, keep it classy. It's not classy anymore. And that's, I guess that's my comment on the draft. Not classy. Let's get back to some class. And no kids.
So my dad had some comments there about the show. Hope you guys enjoyed that. All right, and moving on to our next special guest. His name is Andrew Pillock. I've been talking to him on Twitter the past couple of days. He has his own YouTube channel, and he talks hockey. He's a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, so Andrew, that hurts the heart a little bit. But Andrew talks all hockey. He talks all teams, kind of like us. And he's a great speaker. He's very smart. He actually watched the draft, unlike us. And he not only watched the draft, he live streamed it. So this guy knows much more about the draft and some of the picks than we do. So he was kind enough to make a video last minute for me. So Andrew, thank you, and take it away.
What's going on, guys? This is Andrew, aka Andrew Pillock Sports. First off, I'd like to say thank you to Post for allowing me to participate in this video. And if you guys want to go see more of me, go to Andrew Pillock Sports, subscribe, do whatever you want to do. Just want to have more hockey conversations, and let's get into this NHL draft. So going into this draft, there was some uncertainty of how good the players were going to be, even in the top 10, top 5, heck, even the top 3 at some points. And it went kind of back and forth all year. Is it going to be Nolan? Is it going to be Nico? Nobody knew who the Devils were going to take first overall. But ultimately, the Devils took Nico Hischier from the Halifax Mooseheads, the highest drafted Switzerland-born player in NHL history. The belief is that Hischier has a lot of skill, a very high hockey IQ, and the Devils are going to get a potential first-line centerman that they've really needed. I think it was a smart pick, and I personally wanted Nico to get taken first overall, and some people may look at this as a bit of a surprise, as Nolan Patrick almost for some people was a lock to go number 1. I don't think the Flyers had much of a problem choosing. They took Nolan Patrick at number 2. His stock might have gone down a little bit due to the fact that he missed 35 games last season. But Patrick definitely knows how to put up points. He had 205 points in 163 career WHL games. I think all year, people like Bob McKenzie expressed that Nolan Patrick is probably the most NHL ready out of everybody in the draft, of course. He also has a very good hockey IQ, has good vision on the ice, knows where to find people. And the thing is he probably will develop into a first-line centerman as well. It may take a bit of time, but the belief is that he will step in and become a good player for the Philadelphia Flyers. For most of the year, everybody thought Timothy Liljegren was going to be the first defenseman taken in the NHL draft. But when Liljegren got sick, then everybody kind of moved him down in the rankings again. And a guy by the name of Miro Heiskanen took over as the top-rated defenseman in the draft, and he went number 3 to the Dallas Stars. Heiskanen logged a lot of minutes playing in the League of Playoffs. He averaged about 20 minutes a game. He sees a lot of power play time. He's a very good puck-moving defenseman. I expect to see Dallas develop him more. He probably doesn't step right into the NHL. Some people may have a different opinion. Let me know if you think something different. But I think that he will groom into a guy that will easily slide into a top 4 eventually. Now that we've discussed the top 3, I want to bring up a couple guys that slid down a little bit in the rankings and kind of fell off people's charts. Gabriel Velarde from Windsor, the OHL centerman, slid all the way down to number 11 to the Los Angeles Kings. NHL Central Scouting ranking actually had him at number 4. That was the final ranking of the season. They had him at number 4 and he went down to number 11. My belief is that maybe some scouts seen some things that they didn't like in his game, but enough to slide him all the way down to number 11. Going into this draft, I was under the impression that he could actually get into the top 3, and people were even talking about him going top 2. He has an elite shot, and I think a lot of people are going to regret not taking him. And judging by what I'm wearing, you probably knew I was going to mention something about the Toronto Maple Leafs. I do love the NHL, and, you know, I respect all teams, but my guys are the Toronto Maple Leafs, and you know what? This hat is a little bit outdated by now. I think I gotta switch into something new. This is the Reebok stuff. Huh, this looks alright. The new Adidas NHL cap that just came out. Let me know what you guys think of these new hats. I think they're pretty nice. I just had to pick that up. But Timothy Liljegren, why did he drop so far? The Toronto Maple Leafs were able to get Timothy Liljegren at number 17. A guy that the NHL had been talking about being the best defenseman in the draft earlier on in the season, but then he got sick. I believe he had mono, or he got mono, sorry. And then people just kind of gave up on him. Although there were some slight comparisons to Erik Karlsson, let's just scratch that right away. We're not going to compare anybody to Erik Karlsson, but for international skaters, I believe he ended up as, in their final ranking, as being number 6. From what I've seen and heard about Liljegren, he is very fast. He can control a play in his own zone and in the offensive zone. And it'll be interesting to see when he cracks the lineup. It will not be next year. I think he's going to go back to Sweden for another year and, you know, possibly play for the Marlies, because I believe he's eligible to do that. So that will be pretty cool to see what happens. But just because of his sickness, he dropped so much, and you know, it's a little bit of a risk. You don't know if he'll get sick again or if it's going to cause his play to slow down a little bit. But I think the Leafs see that this was a guy that was talked about going top 3 and even top 2 at the beginning of the season. So we'll have to see if maybe he gets better and proves people wrong, and maybe, you know, some teams made a mistake at letting him drop to number 17. That was just a couple quick thoughts on the NHL draft. Thank you guys. Thank you to Post for allowing me to be a part of this video. And yeah, I'll hand it off to you guys. Thank you guys for listening to me talk about the draft.
All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed watching Andrew there. He's a very smart guy. And if you could do me a favor, he has just over 400 subscribers. If you liked what you saw, definitely go to his channel, subscribe, help him out, have some hockey conversations over there, and let's try and get him up to 500 subscribers. He definitely deserves it. He is a growing hockey YouTuber, and that's what's kind of great. There's so many other great hockey YouTubers out there. Not that we're great. I shouldn't have said other great hockey YouTubers, but there's so many great hockey YouTubers out there. Andrew is one of them. I'm very happy to get to know him over the past couple days, and very happy to have him make a video for us. So guys, go over to his channel, hit that subscribe button, smash that like button, and help him out some. Help him get up to 500 subscribers. He deserves it. And Andrew, thank you very much for making that video. We really appreciate it. And we'll catch you guys in the next video. Adios.